This is Tali's Movie Reviews.
Okay, so welcome back to another episode of Tally's Movie Reviews. This is John. I don't really know John that well. He's a good friend or good friend. He's married to one of my good friends, Christina, who I've known for a long time.
Yeah, we're pretty good friends.
Yeah, and we bonded a long time ago over the fact of Star Wars. So we met at a bonfire, and he started talking about Star Wars. I was like, "There's no way this guy's as geeky as me." And man, did he show me up! So it's quite surprising on how much he knows about Star Wars, and he probably knows more. So, did you read before canon stuff a lot, before they redid canon?
My experience with that really was there was the book where Boba Fett came back I read a long time ago, and then there was one for the prequels where it was Boba Fett in between when Jango dies and then when he gets the green armor. It was a nice little story that they told about.
Interesting.
I was back with Dirge, who's I guess still not canon.
Yeah, I do know that name, but I never knew they made a Boba Fett book before all that.
Yeah, they did. It was a series. I remember it started. It was kind of his point of view of Attack of the Clones, and then it goes all the way to where he fights General Grievous. Like,
Boba Fett does?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't think it's canon anymore.
It's definitely not canon, because I feel like I've read almost all that canon all the way up, but that was always the big thing for me, why I never got into like the old Star Wars book. I was like, oh, there's so many, I'm never going to get into this. But then they reset canon, and then I started following that for a while. I honestly, the last book, I don't know if you read it, it was Master and Apprentice about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. It's one of the newer books that just came out. But that was an interesting read. But you know what I forgot to do, though? I'm just going to turn that on. That's our backup camera. I forgot to turn that on for him. But, so you seem to know a lot about the old history, and you read the original Timothy Zahn Thrawn books, correct?
I actually have not.
Really? Okay. For some reason, I thought you... See, I've never read them either. My brother did end up reading them, and he said that they're pretty good.
Heir to the Empire.
Yeah, Heir to the Empire and stuff. I don't know if he said it was pretty good, but he was like, it was an interesting read, I think is what he really said. But I was always interested in Thrawn, but I was like, why am I going to waste my time on this character? And then I got really excited. So I was not into Clone Wars for a long time.
Yeah.
When did you start getting... Did you like the movie when it came out?
No.
Okay, good.
The original movie, I was angry at it for a while.
Me too.
Why you get why? I thought they were... Why are you going to give Anakin an apprentice that doesn't show until they fleshed Ahsoka out?
Yeah.
The idea of her angered me.
Yeah.
Which kind of is ironic given the subject matter.
Well, not just that. The animation style I thought was weak. The voice acting I didn't think wasn't that good. I felt like it was Star Wars Episode 2 quality was what it sounded like.
If you are suffering as much as I am, please tell me.
Well, I grew up with Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, and to me,
like the samurai style.
Yeah.
Okay, I've actually never seen that. I've seen clips of it, but
they're good. It's visual because, like Samurai Jack, there's very little dialogue in a lot of them. But to me, that's another reason the Clone Wars first angered me is it made those not canon.
Right.
Which we're talking about. Dirge is in those.
Okay. Yeah, so I never really got into them. The only thing I know about him, somebody told me once that General Grievous, the reason why his voice is so messed up is because Mace Windu crushed his windpipe. I was like, that's really dark and kind of cool at the same time. I wish they implemented that into the Clone Wars.
Fun fact, that's Asajj Ventress first appears.
Oh, is it?
Okay. In that series.
Yeah, because she just kind of popped out of nowhere, when the show started.
She didn't have a name at that point, but yeah, she was, there was this rivalry between her and Anakin.
So if you kind of think about it, it was kind of that whole season, I guess you would say, is kind of like a pilot.
Yeah.
That animation style. They're like, okay, let's see what works, and they took what was good and brought it over, and even still, it wasn't that good for a while.
Yeah.
But, you're right. It wasn't like Ahsoka annoyed the crap out of me. I remember when the movie first came out, and I watched it, and it was like, really? You're going to do a movie about Jabba the Hutt's kid who gets kidnapped, and that's like it wasn't very good. It's like, oh, the fate of the galaxy rests in this. It's like, really, Jabba the Hutt's kid? Like this is the tipping point. But I think it was maybe halfway through season 2. I cut it out. I didn't watch it for years, and it eventually kind of caught up with me. I started watching these like Star Wars after shows, and these guys kept talking about how great it is. They're like, guys, trust me. Once you get through the first couple of episodes, you're going to love this show. And sure enough, after about halfway through season 2, I was on board. I was like, I think I can even name the exact episode, and it might be something weird. It's the episode where Ahsoka loses her lightsaber. I don't know why that episode, because, it's all about her being patient and stuff like that. I don't know why I was like, because it seems really stupid and childish that episode, like, I think it was the fact that Ahsoka grew as a character and wasn't as annoying as the series went on. But so that's how I got into Ahsoka and the series. And obviously, I don't need to tell you, season 7 is just awesome. That's
Siege of Mandalore.
Yeah, Siege of Mandalore, all that. And then also when they did Rebels. And I was so excited when Ahsoka came back in Rebels. I was like, and Rebels, I think, is the most underrated Star Wars product ever made, in my opinion. I
agree, because it's the proximity to the original trilogy. Like it's a couple years before the original trilogy, so the amount of legacy characters that show up, and just the fact that my biggest thing about Rebels for a while was that one, it ended on a cliffhanger, and two, it just didn't seem to matter overall. But now with the Ahsoka series, that them bringing all these characters back, tying them into the main timeline and the story here,
which I think the casting has been pretty good so far.
I
mean, Rosario Dawson, who plays Ahsoka, I'm kind of on the fence about still right now. She's got her mannerisms down. I don't think the show should have been called Ahsoka, though.
Yeah.
It did not feel like an Ahsoka show. It felt more like a Sabine show.
It did.
And
but I'll give it this, though. Unlike the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka appeared in every episode.
That's true. And also, Book of Boba Fett was, in my opinion, awful. I was left
a lot to be desired.
Yes, there was so much potential in that show. Because don't want to get off track about Boba Fett, but that show, when the Mandalorian season 2 ended, it made it seem like Boba Fett is like the godfather of the gangs now. And you're like, oh man, Boba Fett's gonna be a badass guy. You don't want to mess with this guy. And then next thing you know, it's like Boba Fett's like, I want people to respect me, and I don't want people to fear me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Everyone fears you, or at least that's how I always pictured Boba Fett. But anyway, don't want to get off track about that. But so like I said, Rebels. It wasn't even just the legacy characters; it's just the crew. I loved Chopper day one. I pretty much loved
Chopper. Yeah.
Hera, I had I didn't like Hera at first, but then I grew to love Hera. I always liked Sabine. Ezra was just kind of like, this character's there, and I love Kanan. Kanan was awesome, I think. And then Zeb. Zeb is funny, and
he's the underrated hero.
And my favorite episode is when Agent Callus and Zeb get trapped on that planet.
Yeah,
that is, even though nothing really happens, that's my favorite episode.
It is a great episode.
And then the next episode after that is when Agent Callus is trying to cover his tracks on the ship.
Yeah.
That's another great episode, too. Oh, you know what? They need to bring Callus back.
They do, because, he's alive.
Yeah. Well, he's in Zeb's world, I think. The hidden world where his people are. I think that's where he is now. I don't know. That's kind of where they hinted, but... fun fact, though. Did you know the guy who voices him is black?
No.
Yeah. He's a black actor, but his voice is just amazing. So you can't. That's the unfortunate thing, is you can't really just be like, "Hey, you want to come back and play this character again?" You really can't do that, because it's like that doesn't fit with continuity. But yeah, he's a black actor, and never would have guessed.
Same with Sabine, I believe. I don't think she's black. I think she's. It was the movie I was watching. The Internship with Owen Wilson.
Oh my gosh, she's in that.
Yeah, she's the girl on their team.
I've never seen it.
She's Indian. I don't want to get wrong. What she is, but she started talking, and it's like, wait a minute, that's Sabine.
Yeah, interesting.
And then it immediately became clear why she is not playing Sabine in live action, though.
She did great as, again, they did great as the voice actors. And sometimes I like how animation now is actually trying to make their characters look like them.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that a lot more and more. It's like when the voice actor comes on board, they literally just make the character look like them.
Yeah. Like
that way.
Forrest Whitaker and
yeah.
Saw.
Yeah. You're right. Was his first appearance in the Rebels, or was it
in Clone Wars?
In Clone,
but he looked completely different.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he had like the dreads and everything. But anyway, so yeah, now we're actually going to get into a review here. I just want to get a little backstory on these characters and how much. Look, we know a lot about these guys.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the first episode. I believe it was called Master and Apprentice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baylan. I'm just going to start with Baylan.
Yeah.
Greatest, I think, Star Wars villain of all time. I put him even above Vader and all that. I love this character so much. Unfortunately, what's his name? Ray Stevenson?
Yeah.
Ray Stevenson passed away right before the show ended. And we're going into spoilers. Baylan does live at the end. And I was kind of hoping he would die in an awesome way.
Yeah, because, then you don't
have to recast or anything, but you still give us a great villain.
No, and one of my gripes with the finale, which we'll get into a little more, is they were clearly going to bring him back.
Oh, yeah.
And now I don't know if they're going to recast him. I don't know if they're just going to minimize his role, but
I think they will recast him. And somebody did, I wish I could remember his name, but somebody posted a picture, and it was like, this person would make a great Baylan. You've seen the Wolverine movie, right?
Yeah,
when he has his brother Hector.
Yeah,
everyone, I saw that picture. Everybody's like, he could play Baylan. I was like, that guy could play Baylan. He needs to bulk up a little more because he's a lot shorter than Ray Stevenson, I think.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need to be like that tall. But I think he could play that guy.
Yeah.
And he's a talented actor too. But my heart, every time he came on scene, I was like, oh, he's so good, but unfortunately he passed away.
I wish that he would have lived to see the good reception his character.
I cry. So there's videos of him at Star Wars Celebration. He was a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And when they asked him to come back, he thought he was going to reprise his role, Saxon, because he played Gar Saxon.
Oh, yeah.
So he thought he was coming back as Gar Saxon. Like, oh no, we're making you a whole new character, and you get a lightsaber. He was pumped.
An orange lightsaber.
Yeah, an orangish red lightsaber. So he was pumped. And he's great. His apprentice is great. Their chemistry together, she respects him. She doesn't argue or anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes she'll be like, why? She'll be like, why? But not
especially towards the end.
Oh,
it was it became clear almost that he was for himself.
Yeah.
And she, didn't necessarily there were a lot of theories that she was going to turn on him, but she doesn't.
No. Well, also, towards the end, too, he's kind of like, I have my own path. Something's calling to me. Go be with the new Empire. You'll have a place there. And it's true. I feel like Thrawn would have taken her. So I thought she went back to the ship. So that's why when it ended the way it did, I was like, wait, she's just with these rebel guys. So that's the other thing is nobody's really talking about is they're all on the same planet.
They are.
So but we're getting ahead of ourselves. But anyway, so yeah, they have the episode Master and Apprentice. Ray Stevenson, awesome. My only complaint, and you probably already heard about this. It's they use an old Jedi code to get on the ship.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're carrying a high class prisoner. Let's just a random ship come on board. That part was a little okay, whatever. It's oh, let's see if they're really Jedi. It's oh, we are no Jedi. But that scene of them just cutting those people up in the hallways. It gave me Vader vibes. Yeah, it was. And just the way he was talking too, just
very calm and collected. Yeah. A lot like Thrawn.
Yeah. Great scene. Love that scene. And that showed me these are the villains that we need to deal with. Anything else you want to add to that before I move on?
No, I remember I read it's very intentional that their lightsabers are orange. It took me a bit it's are they orange or are they red?
Yeah, they look they're like an orangish red is what they kind of look like.
He intentionally did that to kind of show that they're not Sith.
Yeah.
And they're obviously not Jedi.
Yeah.
But, they're kind of something that the series hasn't really explored a lot before.
It's almost like a gray Jedi. It's almost like a gray Jedi, but a gray Darksider is almost what it's kind of like. But I love how Balin, even when he's like ordered to kill, it's like, you have to kill Ahsoka. He's like,
It's a waste.
it's a waste. Such a shame. There's so few Jedi left.
Yes.
Like, he doesn't want to kill her. But he's like, all right. It's like, if that's what I have to do, it's what I have to do. But
There's a lot of the Eastern philosophy that's gone into Star Wars through samurai and stuff, and he has honor.
Yeah.
And that he just doesn't.
And he always gives everyone a chance. And he is normally a man of his word. And then after his word is fulfilled, he may like go back. He might try and kill you after his word is fulfilled, but
only if he has to.
Only if he has to. So then we move on to shortly after that, Ahsoka. It cuts to Ahsoka. She's on this deserty planet type thing. A lot of ash on the ground. You're like, why is there so much ash? I don't understand why all this is here. But anyway, so she's actually looking for something. And come to find out, it is a map that for some reason leads to Thrawn. I don't know why this agent artifact that was around way before Thrawn leads to him. Because, like, it might lead to the planet that he's at.
Yeah.
So was this planet that she was on investigating, was this like a Night Sisters planet?
It very well could have been.
Because that would make sense that it's like, if they heard whispers that Thrawn is on another planet that's related to Dathomir, which is like a witch planet.
Which I'm excited to see in live action.
Oh, yeah. Then it ended. Didn't it end with them going to Dathomir?
Yeah, they are. That is their base of operations.
So Ahsoka goes to find this map. She finds the map. She gets attacked. She realizes she can't open this thing. So she talks to Hera, and Hera says, you know who to go to about this. You should go to Sabine. Come to find out, Sabine was her apprentice for a little while. So, there's kind of like this bad blood, which I don't think they really explored that much.
No, I don't. And that's something that I never would have picked up on based on how Rebels ended.
Right. I mean, the way Rebels ended, it hinted, it's like, hey, like...
We're partners, we're going to find Ezra.
Yeah, we're partners and we're going to find Ezra. So it was kind of weird how they went that route. And some people are mad about, like, her training as a Jedi thing. I actually don't mind it, but at the same time, I'm like, that doesn't make much sense. Why...
Well, actually, and the thing that I've seen multiple times in multiple, talk shows or reviews about this is George Lucas has gone on record to say everybody has the Force. Whether you don't have to be a Jedi, you don't have to be a Sith. Everyone has the potential to have and use the Force. Yeah,
because the Force lives in us and stuff like that. But it was something that was never really explored before. But.
She's kind of the first time they're going head on into that. Like, they kind of did with Finn, which they did a disservice. Finn. They've seen Han Solo wield a lightsaber once.
Sorry, remind me, who's Finn?
Finn.
Finn. Sorry, sequel trilogy.
Yeah, sequel.
It's okay. I was like, who's Finn?
That's one that they kind of hit. Supposedly, his big secret to Rey is him thinking he's Force sensitive.
Yeah.
But in Episode 7, even though he doesn't use the Force, he uses the light. But the whole point is George Lucas has said, everybody can use the Force.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been as okay with this. Thankfully, Rebels, to some people who just went right in blind to Ahsoka, you're probably like, really? Anybody can just use the Force? But thankfully, they kind of gave us a little setup where in Rebels, Kanan and Ezra were kind of training her. And teaching her. Saber. Yeah, teaching her with the Darksaber, but they were teaching her fundamentals of the Force and how it works, So at least she had more of a background and understanding of what the Force was. But yeah, I wouldn't have believed it as much just because we never seen it before. Oh, anybody can have the Force, but I feel like they kind of earned it.
As it shows with Sabine throughout the series, it takes you can't just up and use it.
Yeah,
like everyone has the Force, but it'll take you a couple good tries and a couple of situations before you can actually.
I think it's one thing though to call a lightsaber; it's another thing to throw somebody with the Force. I was kind of a little like, it's like if I just learned how to use the Force, and then I'm like, "Hey, John, go jump! I'll push you up there." It's like I just learned the Force like 5 minutes ago.
Okay. Ready?
It's like that part I was a little iffy on, but I was like, okay, but maybe she like really understood herself after she learned it, and I'm nitpicking though. I love this show. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm nitpicking at little things.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, you are right. I do remember George Lucas saying that. That's like, yeah, and they've said it multiple times. So, like Yoda's always said, it surrounds us, it binds. Oh no, sorry, not well. Yoda said it, and Obi-Wan said it, but it surrounds us, it binds us, penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together. So the Force lives in everything. But yeah, it was just interesting that they kind of went that route with Sabine. There's not really much to talk about in between that. So shortly after that, Sabine finds out how to open up the map. She sees it, but then she gets attacked by Balin's young apprentice. Actually, that's another nitpick. What is with Star Wars and stabbing people with lightsabers now and having them live? Because it's like they have real like I understand a few times you let this happen, but it's like okay, Obi-Wan. Little girl, stabbed. She's fine, not a big deal. Comes back a few more years later, stabs the Inquisitor. Yeah. He's fine. Okay, he comes back, and then Vader stabs her again. And she's fine.
I've seen memes to high hell about Qui-Gon as a Force ghost watching all these people get stabbed the way he did.
I'm okay. Yeah, they need to come up with a better way of, like, weakening somebody. Like, think about it. You use a Force and you throw somebody up against a rock and they hit their head, they're probably out for a while. Yeah. So I can understand if you Force push somebody, they hit their head on the rock, and then you cave in the rocks on them, and then they come back. It's like, okay, that's a little more believable. You probably have a bad concussion. But
or with Darth Vader, it's like Force choke.
Yeah.
You know, I could believe that he thinks that he's killed them, but in reality, he knocked them out.
Yeah. You're right. That would be a way better. Vader just... I mean, normally Vader always goes for the snap, though.
Yeah,
he waits till he hears the snap, and then he lets them go.
Especially there at the end of Rogue One, I've seen it pointed out where he closes his hand, meaning that he crushed the throat. He
crushed their windpipe, and I like it too when he like chokes and then he does like the little snap. It's like like in Obi-Wan, that was an awesome scene when he's in the village. He's like trying to lure Obi-Wan out. He's like, fine, I'm just gonna kill all of these villagers one by one till you come out.
I don't want to sidetrack, but have you ever seen Robot Chicken?
Yes.
I love the sketch about, Vader thinks he has
the Force, but he really doesn't. But if he figured that out,
he would kill us with his lightsaber.
Yes. I have all those episodes. I love those episodes.
Why, Private Perkins over there has been strangled over 30 times. Haven't you, Perkins? Good man.
But yeah, I don't understand this whole like thing with getting stabbed with the lightsaber. And also they've dumbed down the lightsaber too.
They have.
They're not like when they're slicing into those troopers later. It's just like, why? It doesn't take multiple wax to kill somebody.
No.
Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself again. I was about to talk about another thing but we're still behind. Where are we? Oh yeah, so Sabine gets stabbed with the lightsaber. The Balin's apprentice runs away. What is her name? Do you remember?
Shin,
yeah. Shin runs away because Ahsoka shows up. And then, wakes up that Shin got away with the map. Sabine wakes up with Ahsoka. They do the whole spiel where it's like, yeah, this is kind of your fault, whatever. You've done enough. You sit here and rest, and I'll try and fix your problem. Which, again, I don't feel like that they really got their relationship down.
And all of this takes place, surprisingly, before that last scene in Rebels. That's something that surprised me.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So that last scene in Rebels is like, you still have like 3 or 4 more episodes before you get up to that point. But, yeah, I do like the scene, like Sabine is just there. And also her planet got destroyed too.
Yeah, Mandalore.
Well, it got destroyed again.
Yeah.
So her whole family's like
dead.
Gone. So like her planet was already like gone. Now it's like dead. I was like, oh wow. I was like, you're just gonna kill her whole family off screen like that? So I was wondering, I was like, why is she still sticking around with Ryloth right now? Doesn't she have anything better to do? It's like, oh nope, she has nothing better to do except protect Ezra's planet.
No.
Which, what do you think is going on between them? You actually think there's like... I don't think it's like a friendship. I feel like it's more than that.
Especially like in Rebels, I shipped them pretty hardcore, but I feel like the way they reunite in Ahsoka, like there was so much potential to put something there. I
I do like how they're playing it, though.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell, like, there might be something there, but they're just really good friends. But, you know, just because you're really good friends doesn't mean something can happen, can't happen later on. So it's like, you know, maybe it will happen eventually. But I really like their dynamic together, her and Ezra in the show. And also, I felt like, again, they earned that in Rebels, too. You knew that they cared a lot for each other.
And he crushed on her pretty hard.
Oh, yeah, in the beginning, too.
But I've actually seen so many people now are shipping Sabine and Shin. Like, they kind of... it's like, well... if she's not interested in Ezra, she's got to be interested in girls.
I'm actually thinking that Shin is kind of like the Mara Jade.
Yeah, she could end up with Luke.
Yeah, I think... So, I don't know if you know this. They're making... It's been announced. I don't know when this is happening. Dave Filoni is going to make a movie that brings the Mandalorian universe and the Ahsoka universe together. Well, I say universe, it's the same thing.
And
but
Boba Fett,
but those stories,
like,
we'll see about that after the debacle of that show. Who knows if anybody wants to see Boba Fett anymore. But he brings those storylines together, and then... So, they'll have a big budget. They could hypothetically bring back a de-aged Luke.
They could. They've been talking about that too. There's potential for Luke to appear.
Mm-hmm.
There's rumors that the actor who played Han in Solo will appear, but they'll dub him over with de-aged Harrison Ford, and Leia, who her absence I think was felt in Ahsoka.
It was. They did mention her a few times, but yeah. Because she was actually quite involved in the rebuild of the Republic.
Yeah.
So in all the books I read, she was very involved. But her and Mon Mothma did not get along when it came to rebuilding the Republic.
And
but so
something to remember too. At this point, she's a mom. Like at this point in the series, she has trained with Luke.
I don't think so, because this is like. Isn't this like 5 years after Empire?
I've seen that it's about 9 now.
Is it 9 years after? Are you sure?
See, I know the Mandalorian started about 5 after Jedi, but I've seen a lot of people are writing 9 ABY after the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah.
So at this point, maybe she's not a mom yet, but at this point she has trained with Luke and given it up already.
You might be right. If it's 10 years after, that timeline does add up to when she would have been. But yeah, it does. I don't know. We'll find out. You might be right. Maybe she is a mom now. But I mean, Hera's a mom, and she's still fighting with her kid.
God, yeah, he's speaking of the future. Now at the ending, I think sets up Ezra is going to train him.
Well, maybe, but I also think what's going to end up happening is they're going to go with Ezra. Hera's son wants Ezra to train him, but Hera probably doesn't want it because of what happened to Kanan. So I think she's a little reluctant about him using the Force sometimes.
And there are theories abound because his name's Jason, that he's going to be Jason Solo. Like, he will train, but he will turn dark.
Oh, okay. I don't know about that. He seems like a good kid.
Yeah, he does.
Well, he doesn't seem to have the problems Anakin did when he was a child.
Yeah, I don't see any hints of that yet.
Yeah.
But, he didn't honestly he had a couple of moments to shine.
Let's be honest, though. It's kind of like the Teenage Rebellion ages. All Padawans go through a stage where they're like Ezra dabbled in the dark side for a while. I feel like that's like normal for all these young Jedi to dabble in the dark side, and then it's like, what's that thing called when the Amish have to go away? I
forget. Yeah. They're able to experience.
Yeah,
the outside
it's almost kind of like that.
And then choose whether they go back.
Yeah, it's almost like the Jedi do like have a thing like that.
Which I think they could have done something with Rey with. And still could, because, in addition to the Filoni movie, we are going to get a movie.
They announced it. Let's see. Because you know how many movies they've announced that haven't happened? They've been canceled. Yeah. It's Star Wars Lucasfilm has been announcing all these movies that it's going to happen, and they never happen. It's like, when are you going to do this? But I do think this Filoni movie's going to happen.
I do, too.
Because I think... A lot of people aren't happy with the way Ahsoka ended, but I like the way Ahsoka ended. But we're still getting ahead of ourselves tonight. That's always the hard part. I always want to just keep jumping forward. All All right. So Sabine ends up figuring out how to track down Balin. Not Sabine. Was it Sabine that figured it out, or was it
I think it was
Ahsoka? Either way, they figure out how to track them down. They go to this planet, and basically Ahsoka ends up confronting Balin at that point, and then also Shin. I don't know why I'm having a problem with her name.
And Merrick, too, for a hot second.
Yeah. So basically, they have a whole showdown where Sabine will fight Shin and also Ahsoka. I always like, though, how scared Shin gets when Ahsoka shows up.
Yeah.
Because Ahsoka, like, every time Ahsoka is involved in that fight, that girl is getting her butt kicked by Ahsoka.
No, for sure.
Yeah. So it's like, pretty much whenever she sees her show up, she's like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm not...
When you think about it, there are so few Jedi around at that point. She's probably used to utterly destroying everyone she fights because she's a Jedi.
Right.
That's one of the few times in her life probably where someone has ignited a lightsaber back at her.
Yeah.
So I don't blame her for being scared. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, this is someone that knows their shit.
So Ahsoka pretty much just leaves Sabine because she has to go stop Balin, gets to Balin. They have an awesome confrontation. It's all dialogue, too. It's not even the fight. Like, his fighting style is awesome. He's like a brute, man.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, like, those knights that have the really heavy swords.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way he attacks her, and it's awesome. She ends up letting her feelings, get the best of her, and that's how she loses. And then she goes into the water. Everyone thinks she dies. I don't think so.
No.
I think it's more like she goes in the water, the Force protects her, and then she goes to the, what do they always call it?
The world between worlds.
Yeah, the world between worlds. But I don't really think it was the world between worlds. I think it's her subconscious remembering the world between worlds, and then also, like, having that talk with Anakin and having flashbacks. And learning a lesson on what it takes to let go and, how to be a master.
And I've heard, too, that it was a big reminder that the last time she saw Anakin, I don't remember if it's like, this is where it gets confusing with timelines and stuff. There is a timeline where he kills her. And there's kind of a branch timeline where Ezra goes in the world between worlds and pulls her out before that happens.
You're talking about in Rebels.
Yeah, the last time she has seen Anakin prior to this vision, he was Darth Vader.
Well,
so this almost served as a reminder of before he was Darth Vader, he was Anakin.
Right.
He was always Anakin. And that's something that I almost wish we would have seen that in live action as well in the flashback episode, but that was one of my favorite moments of Rebels.
It was a good moment
because they kind of mirror it in Obi-Wan with the helmet breaking,
right?
But unlike with Obi-Wan, Ahsoka actually seems to get to Anakin. Like he seems to he acknowledges her, versus Obi-Wan's talking to Vader at that point.
Towards the end, but like in the beginning, you're right. Soon as like Vader gets hurt when she attacks him, it's like Ahsoka. Yeah. Like there's a brief second where he's Anakin, but then she's like,
I won't leave you. Not this time.
Then you will die.
Dude, that scene is awesome.
Yeah.
Love that scene. But yeah, you're right. In Obi-Wan, they did mirror it again. But you're right, the entire time. It is funny to see. It's like sometimes you see Vader weak, but it's like those were the early days of Vader. It's like by the time Vader gets up to like Rogue One, that's like full Vader
mode.
Yeah, Anakin's completely gone at that point. But that scene, everyone says it's member berries. They're all like, "Oh, it's just member berries." It's you're just remembering the Clone Wars. That's why you like the episode so much. That was a good episode. I don't care.
Great episode.
Seeing Anakin, sure, it's member berries, but seeing him in his Clone War armors, the deep fake was awesome. It was really good.
That's the best de-aging I think they've done.
The way, also, he's still got it with that lightsaber, man. He's really good with that.
And that's something too that they touched upon later on when she's watching the recording of him, and he tells her to practice more than he does. Anakin, he was just naturally gifted and naturally good.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't have to work as hard as he's telling her to.
Right.
because he was the chosen one.
But yeah, that's why I feel like though her saber combat should have been a little better against Balin because she practiced so much. But maybe, Anakin did make her practice in like gunfire. Yeah. So maybe that's her specialty, is just like when it comes to gunfire, she's like, think about it, she survived to execute Order 66.
Yeah.
And did you end up watching Tales of the Jedi?
I saw the episodes with Dooku.
Okay, did you watch? So you didn't watch any of the ones with Ahsoka then?
No.
So there's an episode that kind of brings that up, where Anakin every day would bring her to this one room and have all the clone troopers just shoot at her.
Oh wow!
Just every day, and she got so annoyed by it. So it explains like how she had survived Order 66.
Yeah.
Was he was like, you need to learn. They all had stun on, and she had to like do that. But then she would always wake up, after being stunned. And he's like, again, like didn't give her a moment. He's like, again, again,
the droids and because that was the main. Apart, he mentions in his, she would have faced Asajj, she would have faced Grievous, she would have faced Dooku, but the droids were the majority of her opponent.
Right?
Yeah, they do. They fire.
Yeah,
and they squat up.
Yeah, they do.
Much like,
and they'll surround you. It's one thing to like deflect something probably right back at you that's coming right at you, but if you're like getting surrounded from every angle, getting shot at, but. So yeah, in Tales of the Jedi, all of them aren't that good. The Dooku ones are great.
Yeah,
those are awesome. But that one was a little more like hint to like her backstory and stuff. So that one was all right. But yeah, so yeah, just having the flashbacks with Anakin, also the little girl that played young Ahsoka.
Yeah,
that girl was awesome. Did you know she played young Gamora?
Yeah,
young Gamora in the Infinity War movie. But yeah, she's awesome. So if they ever do another like young Ahsoka in any way, bring that girl back. She did a great job.
That honestly, the best part about that to me is realizing that little girl went toe to toe with Maul.
Yeah.
Like you don't realize it because
in animation it's hard to tell how old somebody is, but yeah, when you do the live action, you're like, Ahsoka was like 16 when she took on Maul.
It gives you a new appreciation for it too, because you don't realize how young she was.
Yeah. But also that's the other thing too, is like when they talk, like I love those scenes where she just sits there and she's just like, this is all I know. Like being a Jedi, is just war. That's all I'm ever gonna know. And then, am I gonna be able to train my apprentice? I think that's the other reason why she's having problems with Sabine, is because she's training her to be a warrior, and that was the way Anakin trained her. But when Anakin was trained to be a Jedi. But I think that's why he thrives so much in the Clone Wars, because he didn't really care about that. He cared more about the action. Yeah. And I think that's why he was such a great general, is because he cared more about combat than anything else, and actually meditating being a Jedi.
And you almost, with Anakin too, you almost kind of go back to, he was trained by Obi-Wan, who was trained by Qui-Gon, who was
trained by Dooku, who was trained by Yoda.
Qui-Gon was somebody, though, that he was not a traditional Jedi.
Oh, no.
Like, there are many theories that if he had trained Anakin never would have become Vader.
Yep.
Which actually goes to...
I like those theories, too, and everyone's like, I always see memes like, Qui-Gon would have been okay with Anakin having a love interest. And I was like, he probably would have.
And that brings an extra layer of tragedy to the end of Episode 1, is... when I've seen it said that Obi-Wan defeats Maul, but technically with Qui-Gon's death, the dark side won the Duel of the Fates.
Dave Filoni said this awesome thing. He's like, when the song comes on, Duel of the Fates, everyone thinks that this is about everyone surviving, Obi-Wan surviving. He's like, no, the Duel of the Fates is, if Qui-Gon dies, Anakin is doomed. He's like, that's the way I see it. It's like, this is the fate of this child. What's going to happen to this child? That's what the Duel of Fates is. I was like, that is an awesome analogy right there. Love that. Dave Filoni's underrated. I love Dave Filoni.
Episode 1 could always use a little more love, too. So
I will admit, I absolutely hated Episode 1 when it first came out. I grew to like Episode 1. I still don't like Episode 2 that much. I'm going to go and say it. Episode 3 is better than Empire. Maybe to me though, it's my opinion. I just love Episode 3 so much. There's so much there. Grievous is awesome. Dooku's awesome. Hayden Christensen's acting could have been a little better, but I think he just
Right,
George
he was
Lucas
working with what he was given.
George Lucas isn't a good actor director.
Yeah.
He's a great visual storyteller. He just can't get his actors.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, read this line. Okay, good. Let's move on. It's like, don't you want to take that shot again?
Yeah.
Give me, like, thankfully Ewan McGregor was just a great actor that he was able to, take the material he had
And elevate it. Yeah.
But I mean, think about it. Hayden Christensen's acting and everything he's been in since, he's amazing. And I think it's just because he had good directors to direct him.
And I love that this show is giving him the love that he has deserved.
Oh, even when Obi-Wan came out, everyone gave him a lot. Even though Obi-Wan wasn't great, and I think a lot of that had to do with the Inquisitor storyline.
Yeah.
She was a waste of a character.
She was.
But I think everything, Hayden Christensen coming back, some of the flashbacks they had, I think he's a much better actor now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's enough with the Member Berries episode.
Member Berries.
So Kanan Jarrus' son, aka Hera's son, ends up sensing that Sabine is in the water, so they all fly low. They find her. What's that?
Ahsoka's in the
Oh, did I say Sabine?
Yeah, I was going to say Sabine.
Yeah, sorry.
Sabine had her
right.
moment at that point.
You're right. So after Ahsoka falls in the water, you're right, I got ahead of myself. Balin, she sees Balin, and Balin's like, why do you fight me? Don't you want to see Ezra again? If you give me the map and you can come with me, and I will take you to Ezra. I promise no harm will come to you, and I'll get you to Ezra. So she does what he says, and then his apprentice starts force choking her, and he's like, no.
I promised.
I promised that she would live, and I'd get her to Ezra. So then she lets her go, and sure enough, he is a man of his word.
Yeah.
He does eventually let her go, and they fly to this planet, they use the map, they fly to the planet, he destroys the map with his lightsaber, which, that was kind of a cool, I don't know why that scene was so cool. He just reaches his lightsaber over, clicks it, drops down, destroys the map, closes it, he's like, no one's following us.
Yeah.
And then he's a very logical villain. Like, sometimes villains just make mistakes all the time. Like, that somebody would have left the map behind or something like that. He's just like, nobody's following us. And then we get to the space whales.
Space with a Paragale.
I actually don't mind the space whales. Everyone hates the space whales. I thought they were fine when they showed up in Rebels. Even the way Ezra used them. See, they earned that, though, because Ezra's main... I don't know if everybody knows this, but in Star Wars, sometimes Jedis are better in certain areas. So Ezra's really good at communicating with creatures, asking him to do things.
Lothal wolves.
Yeah, Lothal wolves, meerkats, space whales. So that's how he ends up defeating Thrawn. Was he basically calls in space whales attach themselves to his the Chimera? Chimera. His ship, the Chimera, and then they basically just go to light speed and go galaxies beyond.
Which I gotta love. This is the first Star Wars thing that touches upon galaxies other than the one far away.
Right.
Which definitely opens up the window for
anything.
So many more stories.
Gives you more stories. Honestly, I would like another Star Wars movie that takes place in a different galaxy.
Yeah.
You don't see, like, sometimes I get a little annoyed where it's like, everything's connected. It's like, really? You're going to keep going back to Tatooine? There's a lot of other planets you can go to than Tatooine. You could do a lot of other stuff than Tatooine.
Oh, you could.
But it's, so, yeah, I would actually like a nice story. That's why I'm excited for Acolytes.
Yeah.
Acolytes seems very new. All new characters. You're not going to run anybody you know. But, so, basically, Balin leaves with the ship to go find Thrawn. They end up finding Ahsoka. Ahsoka feels like she needs to meditate, and then she figures out what she needs to do. They go find the space whales.
She's Ahsoka the White now.
Ahsoka the White.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I guess you're right. So Ahsoka the Right, like Gandalf.
He wants her journey to kind of mirror Gandalf.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. I did not read that anywhere. Like I said, you know way more about this than me sometimes. I'm like, oh. But ends up... we're not even talking about her droid, who's voiced by David Tennant. What's his name?
Hu Yang.
Hu Yang. Hu Yang is awesome, man.
Low-key, the he's one of the best parts of the show.
He's not like any other droid from, some people think he's like K2SO. It's like, no, he's his own different kind of character.
First off, he's been around 1,000 years. He's old.
He's old, yeah.
He's very much like, I got big Ollivander from Harry Potter vibes from him.
Yeah.
Ollivander can look at any wand and remember who it belongs to, and Huyang can do that with a lightsaber.
Yeah. So that was what was cool in those recordings when they saw those people getting massacred on that prisoner ship by Baylan. He's like, they see the recording. He's like, I only remember one kid who made a lightsaber like that. Because he's a droid, obviously he's going to remember it. He's like, oh, that's Baylan Skull? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Baylan Skull. I always forget his last name, but...
I love how it came full circle at the end with Ezra making his new lightsaber.
Oh, yeah. When they meet up with Ezra and he starts making his lightsaber, as soon as he pulled out that top, I was like, I knew what that was. I was like, that looks like Kanan's lightsaber. And sure enough, he's like, yeah, the only other Jedi to use this was your Kanan Jarrus. Yeah. But, yeah, so... Caleb Doom. You're right, nobody talks about that. I like Kanan Jarrus more. Caleb Doom is kind of a stupid name, but... Yeah. So yeah, Ahsoka ends up communicating with the space whales. Thinks she communicates. I love that. So that's what brought me up to the droid. When she comes back in the ship, he's like, "Are they going to take us?" She's like, "I don't know. We'll find out." You're just flying into the mouth of this whale and hoping it takes you where you need to go.
Yeah, that's a leap of faith if ever there was one.
So they end up getting back to the planet. Baylan meets up with Thrawn, and Baylan tells him that he's like, "Yeah, I promised Sabine I'd let her go to go find Ezra." Thrawn's like, that is an excellent idea.
Yeah, Thrawn, another man of his word.
Thrawn is a man of his word. But, so he's like, that is an excellent idea. Let's let you go. Let's let her go. But my favorite scene, though, is when they bring Sabine to him, and then they're like, oh no, I'm getting ahead of myself. So basically, like, this is Ahsoka's apprentice. He's like, Sabine Wren. Because, they know each other from Rebels.
Yeah, they do. They've interacted before.
Yeah, so... I like how he's not really that threatened by her. He's like, you want to go find Ezra? Fine. So basically he uses her as bait to go find Ezra so he can find Ezra and kill him. Because Ezra's been a pain in his ass for...
pretty sure he's dead.
30 years.
You can go try.
Yeah. And then after that, he orders Baylan. He's like, go ahead and send your apprentice to go to follow them and kill them both. So... And I love his apprentice. She's like, I thought you were a man of your word. He's like, I said I would let her find Ezra, and that's what I'm going to do. It's like, he is a man of his word. But then, when... who's the Asian woman, one of the Night Sisters?
Morgan Elsbeth?
Morgan? Morgan.
Yeah.
Okay. I never cared to learn her name.
Intergalactic name, if ever there was one.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I think she's Bruce Lee's... She's related to Bruce Lee.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like they didn't use her character right enough.
No.
And obviously I don't think we're ever going to see her again, judging by how that show ended.
Yeah. No.
But, anyway, so yeah, she informs Thrawn about Ahsoka Tano, and he's like, I want everything you have on her. And then the next scene, she comes back with the tablet, and he's looking at it, he's like, she was the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker. Like, he actually had, like, a scared look. And Thrawn never gets scared. Thrawn knew who Anakin was. He knew Vader was Anakin. And he knew...
That wasn't common knowledge.
No.
We as the viewers know because we watched him. But at that time, nobody knew really that Anakin was Darth
Realistically,
Vader.
The only ones that knew was, like, Baylan Organa, Obi-Wan... Maybe Mon Mothma knew. No, actually, Mon Mothma didn't know. Because in the book I read, she didn't know. So
it's like, see that almost, talking about the Boba Fett books I read, one of Boba Fett's big secrets that he used to trade for information was the knowledge that Dooku and Tyrannus were the same person.
Yeah. Which,
again, that was another, Siths, it's not necessarily known who they were.
What I don't understand is Obi-Wan... Now, we're going to go back to this, and it's like, okay. The one thing I never understood was Obi-Wan was following a bounty hunter that was working for a Tyrannus. He follows him to Geonosis, and he's protecting Dooku. I'm surprised Obi-Wan didn't put that together. It's like, I'm following him because he works for a man named Tyrannus, and he's basically bodyguarding for Dooku. Something tells me that's Tyrannus right there. I'm surprised Obi-Wan didn't put those pieces together.
I'm surprised, too.
Because I thought after that it was common knowledge that he was Tyrannus.
Dooku and Tyrannus. No,
But it wasn't until like Clone Wars they did that episode where they were looking for Master Sifo-Dyas, and then it was revealed that they just found out it's like, you're Tyrannus? It's like, wait, I thought you knew that.
No, and I remember it's one of the big climaxes to one of the Boba Fett books is he gets to talk to Palpatine. And, he's like, how Tyrannus requested the creation of the
Clone
army. Dooku and Tyrannus are the same person. Of course, it's Palpatine,
right?
Who just looks at him and goes, I know. Because, of course, Palpatine knows he's Sidious.
But, yeah, so that brings us right back now. I can't remember where we left off. Oh, yeah, so basically Thrawn finds out that he's like, this is the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker. And like John said, nobody knew that in all of Star Wars. It was always a very... Tarkin. Yeah. Tarkin knew. But yeah, it was a very well-kept secret. Nobody knew who Vader was. Vader just kind of popped out of nowhere. And then just started, bossing people around. Yeah. And he only took orders, really, from Tarkin, but it was more out of respect. Like, Vader was above him, but Tarkin had favor from the Emperor, but, also Vader had respect for Tarkin and liked his methods. But, yeah, so Thrawn ends up saying, okay, well, we need to buy time to make sure Ahsoka doesn't come and ruin our plans. He's basically sending people to distract everybody because they want to load up the special cargo. What is the cargo?
Corpses.
You think so?
I'm
I read that too.
Sure.
Somebody was theorizing that they're Night Sisters, and that's what I read was like they're Night Sisters that are basically, dead. But if you bring them back to Dathomir, they could come back to life, like that. And I was like, that's a good theory, and that would make sense why they're all going back to Dathomir.
And that's one thing I like in Filoni's The Savior, who's going to make the sequel trilogy make sense, is,
right.
The Night Sisters definitely help explain how somehow Palpatine returned,
Right. I don't really care for that. I'm considering this my sequel trilogy. This is what I'm considering the sequel trilogy. Like I said, I just had I loved Force Awakens. I thought Last Jedi was okay, and I hated Rise of Skywalker. I hated it so much. But you're right. They are they are trying to put stuff in to fill it in. That way, it makes a little more sense, and it's just not like Palpatine returned. Yeah. How?
Which something to talk about earlier in the show too is this really highlighted the First Order came about because the New Republic was a mess.
Right.
And this show did a good job highlighting that it's a pretty
it's the politics are. And they're only a few years into it, and they're already, bickering. Normally you have people working towards the same goal for a few years. Then in, 20 or 30 years, then they start, okay, we're, the Democrats and we're the Republicans. Breaking off like that. But no, it's just, they're only, a few years in, and they're already, bloodthirsty for power. It's dude, you're still in the rebuilding stages of your Republic. Just try and get order in.
Yeah. But it's become pretty obvious how the First Order... rose.
Oh, yeah. And also probably, they're just no, you're not going to do that. They're basically all no people is what it was. And it annoyed me that the one guy was just we shouldn't have to spare a couple ships to go investigate a threat. It's yeah, you should. Send some scouts. What does that cost you? A few gallons of fuel to go investigate a system? That was the other thing that annoyed me was... Hera went back to the Republic and said, we have reasons to believe that they're trying to go find Thrawn, and there's something at this planet. I would like to take some ships with me. And they're no. That's no? But that's just the way they're they were just no, I don't. But who knows? Maybe they're corrupt. Maybe they work for Thrawn. Who knows?
Yeah, because that's something, too. They almost... Mandalorian season 3 went into that now. Former Imperials, they're doing it kind of what they did with Nazis.
Yeah.
They're kind of integrating them into the new world and keeping their identity secret. So, those could be ex-Imperial people on the council.
They could be. Well, also, they already established, too, when... there's, ex-Imperials at the ship grounds and stuff like that, The one thing I don't like is when they're for the Empire, and it's bro, you just You made it known that the Empire's behind this.
Yeah.
If you just pretended it didn't say anything and shot them, they'd think, oh, they're just pirates stealing stuff. But you just clearly made it clear that it's like, hey, the Empire's involved. Don't say it. Like, keep your mouth shut.
That reminds me, too, of Morgan Elsbeth's time to shine in the finale.
Oh, yeah.
He says, for the Empire, and she just silently to herself says, for death of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she doesn't care. She cares for her Night Sisters, which makes sense. You know, she's just like, I'm only doing this. And I think that was her goal the entire time, was she's like, I'm doing this for the Night Sisters. And that's why I believe that theory that it's like, if Thrawn returns, her sisters get to go home and come back to life.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. That would be, like, it's like, I would sacrifice myself if it meant, like, if my family was all dead, I'd sacrifice myself if it meant they all got to live, you know?
Yeah,
so I think that's her reasoning. So, you know, everyone was like, oh, are you sure she's actually going to, like, do that? Like, is she going to, yeah, she'll sacrifice herself. But that fight was just very anticlimactic. Like, they tried to make it seem like there's, like, all this blood between them. It's like, yeah, we saw them fight in Mandalorian, but there's really nothing here. It's just buying time. But I will say, now that we're at that point, so they end up finding Ezra. Sabine finds Ezra. Ahsoka ends up finding Ezra and Sabine. She saves them, and then they end up trying to go to stop Thrawn. And then they get attacked by stormtroopers. The witches end up possessing these stormtroopers. Yeah. This is the part that annoys me. I like the part where they've already set this up in Rebels and all that, so I believe it. It's like, okay, you know, they're witches. So they come back as like zombies, and then Ezra and them just start like slicing, you know, crudely at their like armor, which again, they dumb down lightsabers. That's one thing that's annoying me. And finally, towards the end, on the very last zombie, Ezra cuts off the head. It's like, bro, I'd be doing that immediately. He's cutting off the head.
I've already seen them rise up again.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's true. So you killed all the stormtroopers, they get back up again, and then you start attacking them the same way. You're stabbing them through the gut and stuff, and it's not working.
That scene was pretty awesome, though. I mean, we've seen stormtroopers get killed left and right, and that's the first time we've seen them stand up again.
Yeah.
After
it was, don't get me wrong, it was cool. I just didn't like the way lightsabers were used.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there was a lot of them, too. There was a lot of stormtroopers. So it's like, numbers can overwhelm a Jedi. So it's like, when you send like 5 people to go attack Jedi, it's like, bro, come on. A Jedi will slice all of you down. But if you send like 50 or 60 against a Jedi...
that's something I noticed in the finale, too, is... Ezra was dueling with one of them, and there's literally a circle of them just watching.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if they all attacked him at once...
Yep. Yeah, all attack at once, and then you can overwhelm them. Yeah, it's true. I don't like that. Well, that was more... Actually, was that Ezra or was that Ahsoka? I remember Ahsoka, when she was fighting Morgan, they were all kind of like standing around watching.
I feel like it was all of them, really. Like, they... At any given time, there's like 20 stormtroopers in the room, and you only see them fighting 1v1 most of the time, and it's like, well, just gang up on them.
Right. Gang up on them and just take them out. And these are like skilled, like these are Thrawn's troops too. Like these guys, these aren't no normal stormtroopers. Like Thrawn only takes the best. And the fact that they've lived this long without any resources, like you see them, like their armor is like bandaged up.
They got some scars.
Yeah, the ship is in
2 of the engines. I rewatched the thing. 2 of the engines are out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's the Chimera's seen better days.
Yeah, the Chimera is an awesome ship though. I love the Chimera. But yeah, the whole thing was just like devastated, like just completely broken up. But yeah, so it just left more questions. So basically, Sabine ends up throwing Ezra on the ship, and she's supposed to go with Ezra, but she sees Ahsoka's in trouble, so she stays behind to help Ahsoka. And then Thrawn gets on the ship and basically calls in a message to Ahsoka, being like, "You fought valiantly, but I won the day." Yeah. And basically, he's like smug about it too. He's like, "You're never getting back," which is probably true. But I'm sure that maybe Space Girls will show up and they'll get back. But
yeah, somehow.
But he thinks that she's trapped there on the planet. Leaves Sabine. Shin is left behind, and Balin's left behind. And you don't really hear from Balin. It's like,
That
Balin kind of
disappointed me in the finale. Was literally until the way end.
Yeah, Balin like sees Ahsoka trying to get involved, but he tries to like stall her, and that's all he was doing. He's like, I'm not trying to kill her or anything. He's like, I'm just trying to stall her, and then she ends up just leaving him behind. And he's like, all right, I stalled her enough, and he goes on his own way because he's got his own mission. He says something speaks to him here, and he ends up telling Shin that it's like, hey, you need to just go with the Empire. She ends up not really going with the Empire. She ends up staying behind on the planet, and he's investigating other things. Which the ending,
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions.
No, and that's one of the things that almost disappointed me about the ending is, they couldn't have predicted that Ray Stevenson was going to die.
No.
So, but they were very clearly going to bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
And now, there are so many theories about, Mortis gods, that's how they're going to beat Thrawn.
Yeah.
I
don't
Anakin's
think so.
going to be the father. Luke's going to be the son. Ahsoka's going to be the sister.
I can see Ahsoka being the sister because part of the sister spirit went into Ahsoka in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I do remember that. The father, I probably could see Anakin being, but I don't think they're going to go that route. I think what they're really setting up is the mother. Did you hear about the mother?
No.
So the mother was basically like a servant to the sister, the brother, and the father, but then ends up falling in love with the father and becomes the mother. But she's not immortal. She's the mother, but she's not immortal. So she goes and dips herself in the pool of like everlasting life. I'm very dumbing this down, but she dips herself in this pool of life to try and live forever with her family, but then ends up getting possessed by this terrible spirit, and she's so dangerous that the father, the brother, and the sister had to trap her in a black hole for eternity. Wow. Because she was so powerful and dangerous. Now that all of them are dead, is the son still alive? Basically, these are like gods. Is the son still alive, or did he die? I know the father died, and I know the sister died.
I think he's still alive. I think the son wanted to take the father's place, didn't he?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
But, so basically it hints at the end of the movie, Balin's standing on these statues. The sister statue's completely, like, gone. It's, like, destroyed. But then there's the father and the son. And I was like, oh, they're going with, like, the gods element, here. Yeah. And it's very... So basically the son represents the dark side. The father represents balance. And the sister represents the light side of the Force. So that's basically what they were. And yeah, so in like really getting into deep nerdy lore, but in one of the Clone Wars episode, Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan come across this world, almost like a world between worlds. It's like a hidden world. And, the father's like, I am dying, I want Anakin to take my place. Anakin ends up refusing, basically, and then the father ends up dying, and it's you would have to. That's like a whole different review right there. Those episodes alone, but yeah. So basically, they're like talking about these Force gods. I guess you could almost call them. What was Lucas calling those? Journal of the Wills. Okay, so there's this like really deep thing. It's like the Star Wars takes place in something called the Journal of the Wills, or I think that's what it was called. And basically, it was like these gods that view things from the outside, and that's what they're seeing. They're seeing the Star Wars happening. They see the Skywalkers and everything.
Like the Watcher.
Yeah, almost like the Watchers. It was basically what it was. Those are in like really like deep like Star Wars notes that Lucas had, but he's admitted that they were a thing, and he's still in his head he considered them a thing. And I think this was Filoni's version. Like when he implemented that, I think he took that idea and made the father, the son, and the daughter.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's something too. The Trinity is common in a lot of religions.
Right. In almost any religion, you can find the Trinity happening. Yeah. But so all in all, I only had a few nitpicks. I like the show. My biggest complaint is I feel like Ahsoka. I think Rosario Dawson doesn't have Ahsoka down really that much.
Not yet. Which is a shame because she very clearly loves the character.
She does. And she's got her mannerisms down, like the crossing the arms. But I mean, I feel like every scene she was crossing her arms. She's got the mannerisms down. I feel like Ahsoka was a little more understanding of people, whereas this Ahsoka seems more shut out. Like she shuts people out more. But
she seems so much more stern than the Ahsoka.
Right, and maybe it's just her. Maybe she's forgotten herself a little bit. Maybe in the next season she's going to open up more. And you kind of saw that at the end of this episode. At the end of the episode, you saw an Ahsoka that was more understanding. Like, she wasn't upset that Sabine didn't go back like she was supposed to. She was like, we're here together. We're going to find our way. Like, a very optimistic Ahsoka again.
That's how it was meant to be.
Yeah. So, like I said, I only have a few complaints, but other than that, I really liked the show. I thought it was great.
Too.
It shouldn't be called an Ahsoka show, though, because this was more about Sabine than anyone else, in my opinion.
It was really.
There was maybe one, other than the one where she has visions of Anakin and stuff like that, that's the only real episode of Ahsoka, but all the rest were all about Sabine.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Sabine, and towards the end, it very much became Thrawn's show.
Right.
Because Thrawn was probably my favorite thing about the show. Because we did talk about how the villains were good.
Villains were great.
We didn't talk about Merrick. That was
Merrick.
You see, he's so forgettable. He was the Inquisitor.
Oh yeah,
he literally.
He was a throwaway character.
There were so many theories. It's like, watch him turn out to.
Everyone was saying it was like Kanan Jarrus, yeah. And I was
Galen Merrick,
yeah.
watch it be Ezra. But at one point, I remember as a joke, I was like, watch him literally turn out to be nobody.
Yeah,
and he literally turned out to be nobody.
He was a possessed person by the witches, is what it looked like. Because after she killed him, like, the green
the smoke
came out. It's like, oh, he was possessed by a witch, which makes sense.
Because Night Sister magic.
Yeah, because Morgan was with him, so.
But I know, but Thrawn definitely shined in the show,
right?
And I love. This is going to sound very weird, but I love Dad Bod Thrawn.
Dad Bod Thrawn.
I just love that
Thrawn has been clearly eating the food and making his guys starve.
They didn't make him jacked and cut. They made him they emphasized that his power is his mind.
Oh yeah. But also, it's like that Thrawn in the early seasons of like Rebels and stuff like that. That was a much younger Thrawn. This is this has been like 40 years, Yeah. So it's been a while. But yeah, I'm just glad they got the original voice actor back.
Yeah.
Because his voice is so good.
It's a Kalikori, a revered Twi'lek heirloom passed from parent to child through generations, worthless to outsiders, priceless to family.
Yes.
Like, that made Thrawn. I was like, I wish I could talk like that. I wish I could just have every conversation like that.
And I love, there's that, he's talking about how they lost. It's in the episode before the finale, but he's like, it was a momentary setback.
Yeah,
a momentary. But we'll win in the long. Like,
yes.
You're very just.
They've won the battle, but we will win.
Yeah.
But he doesn't say it like that. But that's basically what he's saying.
Yeah, they won the battle. But
a momentary setback. How unfortunate.
Yeah.
Like, he's just so awesome.
Even like when he's very visibly surprised, like when he finds out that Ahsoka was Anakin's.
Well, yeah.
Still his voice is just so calm.
It's calm, but also at the same time, you see the look on his face. She was the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker.
But like you can see it, like it doesn't necessarily scare him. It more or less fascinates him.
It fascinates him, but surprises him because he's like, I knew Anakin Skywalker. I'm surprised that I did not know that he had an apprentice.
Yeah.
Because Thrawn met Anakin. So again, if you haven't read those books, they're great.
Yeah.
The new Thrawn books. But anyway, he meets up with Anakin, and they actually go on an adventure together.
Ooh.
And then later on, he meets Vader, and they go on an adventure, and it's on the same planet. So Thrawn, that's how he figures out it's Anakin Skywalker. So they're on the same planet, and he'd be like, "You should know that, Hutt. We've been there before." And Vader's like, "We've never been there before." He's like, "Oh, my mistake. I mistaked you for somebody else." Like, it's actually, and the guy who narrates it sounds just like Thrawn too.
Oh, wow.
So if you get the audiobook, I highly recommend it. So definitely recommend those. Actually, I actually have Audible tokens. If you have Audible, I will buy those books for you to read them. So they are awesome. Really good books. So definitely worth a read. Anything else you want to add? Like anything you want to talk about? Any theories you have for the upcoming?
Just I love as on the whole, I liked the show. It ranks definitely high in the Disney shows for me.
Yeah.
It very slow burn at first. Like I said, it kind of surprised me that they set the first 2 episodes before the Rebels epilogue.
Mm-hmm.
But it picked it up, and especially, the episode where they're in the world between worlds, that was fan service out the wazoo, but like
it was narrative. It worked narrative.
It did, yeah.
Because it was trying to set up Ahsoka to open up more. And I feel like that's what it was. The episode was to further her character development. So that's why I think it worked narratively. Like, some people are just like, it's member berries, but I think, no,
it had a purpose and it served it very well. And I'm not... On the whole, I like things that are self-contained because we've talked about how they tend to announce things that don't happen. So we don't know what's coming next. We don't know if there's a season 2 or it's going to pick up in the movie. But so I'm not a huge fan of the fact that it ended with them stranded. But at the same time, George Lucas has always said Star Wars at its core is about hope.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know they talked about, they interviewed him prior to The Mandalorian, and they asked him for advice on the stories, and he's like, well, they just got to be hopeful.
Yeah.
And I got that vibe very hardcore from her and Sabine at the end, is there is hope.
Yeah.
That they will get unstuck, that they will find their way back.
Speaking of that, we got to talk about the score.
Oh, yeah.
The score of this show is... Because it's the same guy who did the Rebel show, and he did the Clone Wars show as well. But this show, I never realized how much I love Sabine's theme.
Yeah.
It's such a good theme, and it's a sad theme too, because everything always bad happens. It's just a great. I love the show.
She's a pretty tragic character.
Yeah, she is. She's lost everything.
She's lost everything.
She created the weapon to destroy her planet.
She's got some skeletons in her closet, and
this girl's got some major baggage.
She does.
So Ezra's in for a handful.
He is,
but he knows most of their. He knows most of her problems. But the score, I love the score of the show. I can't believe I forgot about that. It's so good.
Yeah, they did.
It works in the right moments. And a lot of new original sound, music. But.
I also think, again, circle back to they cast it very, very well.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I loved the characters in Rebels, and seeing them in live action was...
Ezra was spot on, the guy they got. And he's got his mannerisms. Like, the way he acts and stuff. Like, the cocky... Like, cocky but not cocky at the same time. She's like, here's your lightsaber. It's like, oh, my lightsaber? The Force is my ally.
He's older now.
Yeah.
He's not the little kid he was in Rebels.
But I like how he didn't even want a gun either. But then he started getting overwhelmed, and he's like, all right, I'm going to use a gun now. And then he starts wrecking shop.
He does. And so it was cool to see them all brought to life.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely... Also, just the look on Sabine... Or not Sabine. Ahsoka's face when she finally sees Ezra and Ezra sees her. Like, just the like, they actually got that moment right. It was
even though
good.
Like, you've never seen those two actors together,
you
buy that they were friends.
Oh,
you
yeah.
buy that it's a reunion, not an introduction, and that
Well, also, it's like they haven't seen each other since the World Between Worlds.
No, they haven't.
So it's like, basically, I think it was like season 3. Was that when World Between Worlds happened, or was it later?
I think that was the end.
So when did they end at season 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So season 3, so he was much younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he didn't,
He had the short hair at that point.
Yeah.
He was still,
Yeah, so it's been a long time since they've seen each other.
Yeah.
And also, so she must have found out secondhand how Kanan died, too. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That was an awesome... Man, we're like having a Member Berries episode, but that was a great episode, too, when Kanan sacrifices himself. Oh, guys, if you have not seen... I'm going to go ahead and just say this right now. Clone Wars isn't really a must, but if you are going to watch Clone Wars... I say season 7. The final 4 episodes of season 7, amazing.
It fits very well with Revenge of the Sith.
It lines up with Revenge of the Sith. It's about Ahsoka. It's all motion captured too. Almost all of it's motion captured, and it looks beautiful. And then just watch Rebels. Rebels is so good, and you'll understand Ahsoka so much better. They have some fillers, but even some of the fillers episode, like Chopper Chopper commits genocide a lot of the times.
I've seen Chopper's body count.
Yeah. I was curious. It's like in the 50,000s, isn't it?
Yeah,
Something like
it's
that?
probably more so than any other Star Wars character.
Chopper will just kill anybody.
No, I know. I've seen... There's a guy, YouTuber I like to watch that talks about the episodes, and he says that he chuckles every time that he sees Chopper babysit Hera's son. It's like, why would you entrust your child to this?
Oh, no. Like, I would trust Chopper with my children's life. Well, maybe not. You remember that one episode of the Inquisitor babies?
Oh.
And he's like... Zeb's like planting a bomb on it. He's like, "There's a baby in there," and he's like, "So what?" Chopper's like, "So what?" He's like, "So what? There's a baby in there. We have to save it." And Chopper's basically Zeb is translating Chopper, and Chopper's just like, blow it up anyway.
That actually does bring me to one thing I wanted to mention too. I was very disappointed Zeb didn't appear.
I'm not surprised Zeb didn't appear.
I was expecting him to.
At least in appearance, you're right. But think about it. That is a very high-budget CGI character.
That is.
And he only appeared in briefly, was it...
Mandalorian?
Yeah. He appeared briefly in Mandalorian.
But I thought that was setting up that he was going to reappear in Ahsoka.
I thought so too. At least in appearance, you're right. Maybe in appearance, it would have... I'm surprised he didn't show up. But maybe he'll show up in the movie, though. Because if it's a movie, they'll probably have a budget to put Zeb in it. And Zeb's an awesome character.
I bet you they'll bring back Callus, too.
That would be cool. But you got to get somebody that sounds like him. That's why it's like, I know it's terrible to say. I'm so upset he's black, but what I really mean is he's great in the show, but you can't bring him back.
You
that voice actor, because it doesn't match with continuity. That's the thing I'm upset about. But he was great as the voice actor of Agent Callus.
Sure.
Oh, that whole...
he was just,
so
a big layered character. And I remember, at the beginning, he seemed so bad in the first season or so, but then...
Well, that's why I love that episode where him and Zeb are stranded on the planet together.
I did terrible things, but I had to.
Yeah. And then they go into, Zeb's like, at least I go back to a family of people who love me.
Yeah.
And then what's great about that final episode is, Callus does get rescued by the Empire eventually, but then he's, on the ship, and he's, looking for companionship, looking to talk to anybody, and everybody's just like droids. Everyone in the Empire is droids, and that's when he realizes he's like, I'm working for the wrong team here.
Yeah.
And that's Callus's character development was I think some of the best Star Wars character development ever.
Yeah, because he's like I said, he starts out as so mwahaha.
Mwahaha. Even Zeb's people. He's like, I extinct your people.
I killed them all.
Yeah, I killed them. Yeah, and he's bragging about it. And he's got his people's weapon, their sacred weapon, and it is revealed eventually that it's part of the culture. It's like if you defeat one of those, what are they called, Zenhelis? No, I'm thinking of Halo. I think.
Yeah,
I think I'm thinking of Halo.
I forget what they're called.
Yeah. But it's like, if you kill one of the warriors, it's tradition you get the weapon. Zeb didn't know that. Zeb just thought he was walking around with it like a trophy, and he's like, oh no, you won it as fair and square, so I guess you get to keep it then.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm a huge Star Wars geek.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about, though? Anything Star Wars related? What do you think about the Acolyte show? That sounds interesting.
I'm excited just because, like you said, it's something that's new.
And hopefully, contained in its own universe.
Yeah, and its own timeline, too. I think it takes place in the High... Does it take place in the High Republic?
I have no idea. I don't know much about it.
I don't either.
Yeah. Skeleton Crew interests me. That does. Because I thought that was... When they announced that, I thought it was a... what do you call it? I thought it was going to be an animation show.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, wait... This is going to be like a live action show. Okay.
I'm a big fan of the Amblin era of movies with the Goonies and it's basically they've been described as the Goonies in space.
Really? Okay. So Skeleton Crew is gonna be more like kids then.
Yeah.
Really, I did not know that. I was thinking. I guess I need to do more research on this. I was under the impression it was gonna be more like, a band of misfits. But I guess that's what it... But I guess that is what it is. Everyone kept saying it's like a band of misfits. But I was thinking something like... have you watched... What's that other new Star Wars show? Bad Batch.
Oh, the Bad Batch.
I was picturing something like Bad Batch. Have you watched... Season 2? Have you seen that?
I saw the first episode of the Bad Batch, but I haven't
gone
much
so
further.
it grows on you. It reminds me a lot of Clone Wars. It grows on you. So I wasn't like a big fan of it halfway through season. By the end of season 1, I was into it. Season 2, I love it. Because the thing I like about Bad Batch is they will kill somebody.
Yeah.
And they will kill somebody in a ruthless way. And even characters, like, dude, characters you love, it reminds me of Game of Thrones.
Oh, wow.
There are characters you love that die, like, straight up die. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they killed that person.
Oh, wow.
So, I like Crosshairs and stuff like that. He'll straight up murder people. Like, it's
Crosshairs, another one that's very cold and calculated.
Yeah. So it's I recommend it. So maybe, and the new season should be coming out next year soon too.
It's the last one.
What's that?
It's the last one.
Oh, it's the last one.
Yeah,
okay.
They said season 3 will be the end.
I don't think they're getting the viewership they were expecting. I think.
Well, and Star Wars can happen in threes a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it is one of those things where they could milk it probably for a couple more seasons, but they probably are realizing that, there's only so many different places you can take these characters.
Right. But also what they're doing, too, is, like you said, how they're setting up stuff about how Palpatine returned.
Yeah.
This show is pretty much all about that. It's
clones.
So it's all about cloning facilities, the hosts, all that. So, and, the Empire pretty much... Actually, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's all about the Empire's interest in cloning, and they're very interested in it, but they shut down the cloning process. Yeah. And that's the other thing I love about the show is it's talking about what happened to the clones after the Empire took over.
Yeah, because a lot of people assume that the clones are the stormtroopers,
no,
but they're not. By that point, the clones are all gone.
Like, there are still some clones, but they're, like, reduced to, like
the one that hits his head.
It's like, you're a police officer now. Like, that's basically what they're reduced to. And then, even then, like... It reminds me a lot of, too, like the veterans that came back after Vietnam. Like, people are, like, spitting on these clones now. It's like, dude, these guys were, like, your first line of defense.
That scene in Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
When he's... Tamara Morrison appears and says, spare a coin
for a veteran. Yeah. It's like, they're reduced to nothing now. So, it's definitely worth a watch. It definitely gives you a very good look on what happened to the clones, after the Empire took over. And they're pretty much used for suicide missions only, But, all right, man. Anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, so guys, it's another episode here. We'll probably do something else too. Are you into like Marvel or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you? Let's talk about this real quick. What did you think of the new episode of Loki?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, way better than season 1. I hated season 1. Really good. Definitely recommend it. So maybe we'll have to start doing that. I'm down to start doing some more reviews. I like doing them with people.
Yeah.
It's because I just sit here all day and I'm just giving my opinion. It's like I want to, and also you always remind me of like certain other stuff too. Yeah, man. If you want to do another one, I'm definitely down to do that.
I'm down to do Loki.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching, John. Thank you for joining me.
It's my pleasure.
Fun. Yeah. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Tali hopes you've enjoyed this program.